Welcome to Dead Man Talking. Tonight's show is part 1 and part 2 of the brand new series that I was telling you guys about. I was going to put it all out in one hit, but to give the other channel a chance to get ahead, I'm going to put it out in just parts. As ever, please do let me know down below what you thought. Please do like and share and help build this channel and community. Smash through the 10k subscriber mark by April. Without further ado, let's get into tonight's story, entitled My Job Requires Me to Clean Up Roadkill and Hunt Cryptids. Part 1. Let's get straight into that. While I'm not at liberty to say which state has done so, I can tell you that around a year ago, I picked up a job removing those corpses you see at the side of the road. Some are spotted quickly, and the cleanup is as easy as picking up the carcass and chucking it. Sometimes a roadkill is left for days or hit by several cars, and these cases are a pain in the arse. A lot goes into making sure your kids don't break out crying on your 5-hour road trip when they see Bambi at the side of the road. The work is quiet and people don't bother you, and other than an intercom on my dashboard telling me where to go, I have little reason to talk to anyone. I just traverse the highways in my truck that looks eerily similar to what horror movies would have you expect someone in my profession to be driving. In life, you go through changes. Not all of them are welcome, but they're going to happen whether you're ready or not. You just got to roll with those punches, and that's what I'm doing. Scrapping remains off 4 lanes isn't enough to pay the bills though, and it was around the time I was close to losing my home that a peculiar phone call gave me an interesting change. I can't remember the dates, but 3 months ago I was approached with an offer that at first was nothing but humorous. They told me the line of work I was already in would seamlessly integrate into the work they had lined up for me. They were right. I was used to long rides, solitude, and most importantly, I knew how to dispose of an animal. With cautious hesitation, I agreed, and not a day passed before I received my first call. The encounter nearly made me quit on the spot, until I saw the pay. I could afford a nice shiny pickup truck, but I can't imagine the use of owning something like that and spraying the thing down every night. Besides, old Elvis has been keeping me company ever since I pulled my first animal remains off the black tar. Even more so, ever since my first night with that thing. I wised up and began to teach Elvis some new tricks. The truck ain't pretty on the outside, but it could outrace 80% of the cars I'd seen passing by me. There's no need for me to elaborate much on my time back then. I don't think either of my employers would be too keen on recounting all of that. Nor would they like what I'm doing now, but for the sake of the compilation, I'm writing my jobs down from now on. You see, from 9 to 5 I do nothing but wait until some poor animal's day is up, until time or nature kills it. Once that shift ends though, I sit by my radio and wait, sometimes minutes, sometimes hours, until I hear a faint static kick in and give me the location, situation and the cryptid I'd be hunting that evening. You've no doubt heard stories of some of the cryptids you can come across. Some are even famous. For every cryptid you've heard of, there's 10 more waiting in the bushes. Those are the ones that I'm called to take care of. Not all of them are out to harm humans, and some can exist peacefully with the surrounding ecosystems. But when one goes rogue or harms their biome, that's when I'm called in. Tonight I was called in to take care of a swift bastard called the Mile Wolf. They all have cute nicknames like that. The Mile Wolf was once thought to be a rare category of cryptids that were singular in nature, meaning it was the only of its kind. It wasn't until 2 attacks were sighted 10 miles apart in a time frame of 5 minutes. These things are fast, but not that fast. Thank God. They're agile and cunning, so when one is spotted, it becomes a priority. They attack humans for food and similarly for sport, and also feed on any species of wolf that happens to habitat the area. The attacks resemble that of a pack of wolves, with how vicious the claw and bite marks are. So, after receiving a call, I made my way to that cold storage where I kept any clean roadkill and pulled a deer from the freezer. Heavy bastard. I located the sighting on the map, some backwards car path that was primarily used by lost foreigners. It had one way in and out, making it a perfect road to plot a trap on. So that's what I did. Then, after gathering the necessary supplies, I chucked everything into the truck bed and took off. By the time I finally hit the road, the sun had long since left the sky, and it was approaching midnight. This is typically the best time for hunts. The fewer the people, the better, but if you wait too long, you risk the thing hauling up for the night. Male wolves are very adept at making themselves invisible, and can even trick passing observers into thinking they're just witnessing a normal wolf. The male wolf gets its name from its body structure. If you were looking at it head on, all you would see is a very tall wolf. Its legs are thin and stretched, giving a malnourished appearance. Their height could dwarf the extinct dire wolves. I've heard of male wolves that have reached up to 6 feet in height. I'm thankful I've never seen one of those. The community is still split on whether or not male wolves have a hierarchy like regular packs do. If they do though, that 6-footer was no doubt the alpha. Their tall stature isn't their main feature. No, it gets weirder. The male wolf will rarely be seen from the side, but if you were to catch a glimpse, you would see a long, cylindrical like stomach and chest. They've been compared to snakes and worms, but I see a stronger resemblance to ferrets. They can reach over 10 feet in length, and you can tell they're hungry. In the middle of their tube-like body is sagging. If that's something you manage to see, it's already too late for you. As I've said before, these suckers are fast. It doesn't matter if they're running away or towards you, they are faster. Their bodies allow them to slink through the forest as if they were made of water. If you wanted to kill one, you'd have to do so swiftly, but even that wouldn't be easy. For whatever reason, all these cryptids have accelerated healing, and the male wolf is among the worst of them. Like the worms they resemble, a limb or even half of their body will begin to regrow after being severed. There is one thing that can halt the healing completely, and it's far too cliche for my taste, but it gets the job done. Going over the plan in my head, I pulled up to my destination, about halfway through the secluded trail, and turned the truck off. I withdrew several small speakers from the back of my truck and placed them at random on positions on the road. On the side of the road, I placed a uniform row of rusty iron and covered them with leaves. Male wolves will not make a sound as they approach you. If you are hunting one, you must act fast and quiet, or the tables will turn before you even realised you're drawing your last breath. Their teeth are some of the sharpest I've ever seen. They would slice through a tree faster than a chainsaw if one had the mind to do so. Reaching into my truck, I pulled the double-barrel shotgun I'd bought my first day on this job. It and Elvis got together well. Then my hands found the revolver and dropped a single, very expensive bullet into the chamber. I placed them on the road, laying them gently next to the ghillie suit. Then, the final piece was dragged from the truck bed. Several space heaters were focused on the deer. The stench it gave off, it was horrendous. It was powerful, and I didn't have time to pay it mind. I placed it in the road, a safe distance from the speakers, iron, and my own supplies. With a hunting knife, I stuck the deer's stomach and pulled, the fine skin giving way easily as I felt a flow of red run past my hands. Quickly, I rushed to the open door of my truck and took one last heavy breath, just to centre myself. My hand pressed hard on the car's steering wheel, and the horn cried loud into the vast silence of the night. Bouncing through the trees, slamming the door, I swiftly made my way to the ghillie suit and threw myself under it. I laid on the road, watching the deer's body lying in the road. Moonlight as my only source of light. I could see it reflecting off the pool, now surrounding the deer. My wolves are cautious. I had no doubts that it was sizing up the deer. I had no doubt it wanted the easy prey. Before I knew it, a shadow lunged onto the lifeless deer. Ugly sounds of gnawing, like ripping sheets of paper, could be heard coming from the mass of meat. My fingers wrapped around the grip of my shotgun, and there was going to be no opening. I was just going to have to go for it and hope everything worked out. You have to take leaps of faith like that a lot in my line of work. Going over the plan one more time in my head, I readied and calmed myself. It was time. Like a maniac, I sprung from under the ghillie suit and readied my shotgun. Before I even raised the barrel, it was already aware of me. Its long, slender body began contorting to face me. I didn't have time, so without a clear shot, I pulled the trigger. Bang! The recoil jarred me for a minute, but I could see I did some damage to its legs. The male wolf swung away from me after being shot. It was attempting to flee. It made it several feet, and a large hum emitted from the speakers, frightening the male wolf. As it picked a new direction, another speaker went off. It made a frantic sprint towards my truck. My finger clicked a small rubber button on my keys, and the lights of the truck shone, bright, piercing, the dark. The road lit, and I could see now the male wolf's albino hair. It was standing on end like it was a pissed-off cat. Along with the lights, the radio, and the speakers mounted atop of good old Elvis chimed a wonderful tune of harsh static. The male wolf retched and ran towards the side of the road. The biggest part of this job is having foresight. You are hunting these things that go bump in the night. Most of them are still animals though, and their actions can be predicted. As I watched the male wolf clamber to the side of the road, and as I heard the harsh clamping of a row of bear traps, I knew I was chalking up another successful hunt. These things' frantic movements had been its undoing. If just one or two of its legs had been caught, it could have gnawed them off, and I'd have no chance of catching up. But it had slipped, and the traps closed on its stomach and near just below its neck. As I walked over, I pulled out the revolver. If left be, this thing would recover and be angrier than ever. It looked up at me and flashed bright green eyes, giving off several cries for mercy. But the male wolf is crafty. If you show it mercy, it will not return the favour. I had more than enough time. I aimed the perfect shot, and with the pull of the trigger, the hammer brought down and ejected the bullet. A gleaming oval of silver flew from the barrel and straight into the male wolf's head. The only way to really kill one of these is to stop the regeneration completely. Silver is the cheapest compound known to do such a thing. Still, it ain't cheap. The rest is no different from my morning job, just a little more intimate. I removed the traps and threw the corpse into the back of my truck, covering it with a ghillie suit. And after packing up my supplies, I hopped in and began the long drive home. I am tired, but I am alive, and there is a very long wolf hanging in the cold storage. I keep the cryptid bodies around for a while before burying them, because just like the roadkill, they have their purpose to serve. My job requires me to clean up roadkill and hunt cryptids. Part 2. Let's get straight into that. First night's hunt. The male wolf. It's hard to keep a social life with a job like this. Never mind not having the time between both occupations. Trying to wipe the scent of dead roadkill or some creature's blood isn't an easy task. I honestly make good money, but I'm not sure what I'm making it for. My routine is to wake up and try my best to acquire some semblance of fresh. I'll go a couple of rounds with the punching bag. Sometimes I'll just sit and look at it. Memories can be draining. Some people work so that they can live. More and more, I'm discovering that I'm living to work. I find more comfort in the rides to and from than I do sitting in my house. I won't beat around the bush either. There are nights after a rough hunt that leave me feeling like a badass, and I miss that feeling. As far as the 9 to 5 goes, it was a fairly slow day. I was even called to 2 separate places that ended up being just sick animals. I have to contact animal control in those scenarios, and then it's out of my hands. There was a skunk discarded into the brush off the interstate that a number of drivers were complaining about. The smell wasn't at all bad. Lord knows I've experienced worse. Squatting over the poor thing, I observed its wounds and considered what could have inflicted them, and ignore the skunk's defense mechanisms. Most cryptids you will run into have their senses enhanced, as they evolve to avoid detection and hunt more dangerous prey. If I wanted to find out the cause of the skunk's death, I would have to open it up, and that just wasn't going to happen. As I picked it up, however, it felt light, and its bones had clearly been cracked. Throwing it into the truck bed, I thought of the colossal viper, a massive snake that is able to, through sheer muscle power, burrow underground. It's presumed to either lack the ability to smell or deny it has a repellent. It will constrict its prey and put its blood out using its fangs. The sheer strength of that thing would leave any animal broken. Wouldn't be too outlandish to assume I'd be getting a call about it in the near future. If it came as close as it did to civilization, it could be a problem. How would I deal with something like that monstrosity? Lucky for me, my prey this night was something a little more docile and smaller than some Hollywood horror snake. I took the day's work and disposed of whatever I couldn't use, but the skunk went into storage. Its smell could be useful in the future. Waste not and such. I got a call from my employer a few hours after getting home. It was a simple job, one that, if finished quickly enough, would allow me to take another. There are these little creatures called jobbins. I didn't name them. I have no idea where the name came from. They are as peaceful as a cryptid can be. They are almost kind, in fact. You see, they'll sing for you. It's not a song you will enjoy, and for one reason or another, it'll enable you to enter sleep. Or, if you're already sleeping, you'll be unable to wake up. Something about the frequency locking your brain's state of awake. These are easy to get rid of. You just have to make them know their presence is unwelcome. The reason I was even called in for this is the caveat that comes with jobbins. They are so docile that they are easy pickings for larger prey, mainly cryptids. So when the big boys hear the jobbins singing, they will culminate on the area in search of them. Even the apex of cryptids can't resist their call. It makes you wonder what they taste like. I can tell you now, if the jobbins were to attract the attention of the ever-elusive Bigfoot, I'd be going radio silent for a few days. That is one job I'm not willing to take. My rule is, if something can chuck a tree at me, I'm going to avoid it. So, like any rational hunter, this is a job I jumped on quickly. Easy money, and no fuss. I drove until I saw the distinct red light the jobbins give off. The best visual I can give you is, imagine large red lightning bugs with tiny little feelers. Their singing is created by the rapid movement of their wings. God, is it annoying to hear the whole cluster of them. I wrapped a towel around the nearest branch I could find and doused it in lighter fluid with a dab of vanilla extract. It has to be straight from the bean, nothing artificial. Lighting it on fire, I made my way to the group, waving it around like I was trying to knock down cobwebs. The group of jobbins' song grew louder as they scattered into the woods. I'd had to leave the stick burning on the ground in case they returned. Smelled a bit like, homemade cookies. Life would be so much easier if each hunt exhibited the same degree of simplicity. It was actually pretty, watching their lights dance into the darkness. These creatures used to be a larger concern. People would mistake the glow of their bodies for the glowing of red eyes peering at them. They believed the song to be some howl to call a pact or to signify that they had found dinner. Nope. Just very large bugs. I stuck around the site, sitting in my truck to make sure that nothing unsavoury had followed the group of jobbins. Thankfully, I was able to leave that site without any incident. My next call came through the radio as I was leaving the site. The place was several dozen miles out and I'd be cutting it close with the morning light. Luck so had it that I don't work my morning job tomorrow, and this cryptid is a very hyper one, to a fault. So, I shifted Elvis into gear and made my way. Guided by my headlights, I watched the side of the roads. Not only did I want to avoid causing roadkill, knowing what a pain in the arse it could be, but a lot of the more dangerous fellas will attack cars when they are alone, as I was. A handful of hours passed before I reached my destination. Another stroke of luck was that the general supplies I had were enough to handle this hunt, so I didn't need to stop at home. I rolled up on a farmer's driveway. Hopping out, I was greeted with a thick and commanding voice. This man had been tending to the farm since he was 18. A worn and weathered face relayed to me those youthful days were many years ago. He informed me that he saw a small creature in his field and that it was leaving barren circles of corn. We normally don't discuss clients unless the information is pertinent, but some of the tough-stomach ones don't mind a quick conversation. I assured him I'd take care of it and even gestured that I'd try and avoid setting the field on fire. He told me that would be ideal and gave me a brief history of the Cryptids' activities. With that, I headed into the field, supplies in tow. A small beam of my flashlight attempted to illuminate my way, but it seemed every ray was met by the cornstalk's resistance. It was hard to keep track of time. The field was so monotonous, and the sky was still so dark. I had at least a good 2 hours before sunlight. I was pleased to make such good timing. During my walk, I made sure to note the location of the clearings the farmer mentioned. After passing my third one, I heard a clicking sort of noise to my right. At this time, I slowed my pace and flicked my flashlight off. Brushing aside stalks of corn as gently as I possibly could, I closed in on the rapid click. It's the same noise you'd get smacking dominoes together. The noise wasn't incredibly loud, even as I stood just a few feet from it. I could see its faint outline through the obstructing vegetation. The furball was chewing away on a stalk of corn, devouring it from the bottom up. The less aggressive of cryptids tend to get names that lean towards cute. This is to sway the community's opinion on them. Things like jobbins, sugar creeps, and this here furball are typically herbivores. On rare occasions, however, a furball can become territorial if it finds a bountiful food source, like the one we are in. Even though I had become still, it halted its feeding and became aware of me. Furballs have an unparalleled sense of sight. Looking at me, the thing could see me just as clear as if the sun was directly above us. What all I could see was a tangle of outreaching thin tendrils that made up its hair. A furball. I could see the stalk of corn being clutched by its short, stick-like limbs. It wasn't going to take long before it lunged at me. Furballs are typically harmless, but this one had been terrorizing the livestock and the farmer's daily operations, not to mention ruining large plots of the crop by eating them. They aren't something I can just put a bullet into. Their bodies are 90% hair, even though the limbs are made from longer, harder fibres of hair. I'd only get one shot before it scurried off, and I wouldn't be able to trap it, like my last hunt. No, this one was going to be trying to chase me. Quickly, I flicked my flashlight in its direction to agitate it, and began to run away. I could hear the tumbling line of dominoes as its short legs paddled after me. Furballs are bundles of energy, just as much as they are fluff. Their movements are sporadic and unpredictable. Whenever it caught up, it would jump across my path and take a swing at my legs or get brazen and leap to my chest. I had to wince and ignore the slicing of flesh whenever it managed to land a hit on me. I was sure to wear something loose to snag its attacks. Foresight. It only came up to about my thighs with its height, so most of the strikes were around my ankle. It felt like running through an upset rosebush. I continued though. If I stopped, I'd get the worst of it for sure, so my arms and legs kept pumping and cool air pressing my wounds. Just when I thought my knees might buckle under the strain and minor blood loss, which I've never been good with, go figure, we came across a larger circular clearing where all the stalks had been ripped up and eaten for the furball's dangerously high metabolism. Reaching into the pocket of my blue jeans, I pulled out a pill bottle-sized cylinder of metal. My finger reached into the metal pin and pulled it loose. Straining my body as much as I could, I whipped the stun grenade high above the cornfield. I hoped it was far enough to avoid any ignition. Once thrown, I spun around and threw myself to the ground, burying my face in what was left of the cornstalks and putting my shirt over my eyes. Even with all of that, and my eyes squeezed tight, my eyelids still illuminated a bright pink and my ears still rang heavy from the blast. I'd be sure to apologise to the farmer for stirring his livestock. My issues were nothing compared to the furbal's hypersensitive eyesight. It would be rendered useless for a good while. When you have something as efficient as a furbal's eyes, you tend to lean on it. That and its energy was spent chasing, and it didn't have enough to even try stumbling away in some haphazard direction. The quickest and most painless way for me to kill it was by just letting it starve. They have to eat pretty consistently or their active metabolism shuts down in around 30 minutes and dissolves what little muscle mass they have. It sounds terrible, but it really is a quiet way for them to pass on, and if I have the choice, that's the one I'd go with. I've heard enough horror stories about hunters that like to play with their hunts, drag it out. That's not who I am. So I sat with it, watching its fur swaying with each gust that rushed through the cornfield, accompanied by a soft rustling. As its body was shutting down, the arms and legs began to unravel and resemble the rest of its hair. The sun was coming up by then, and had actually forgotten their fur is brown, not black like the nights suggest. When its body had given up searching for fuel, I watched its hair separate from form and drift into the morning's wind until nothing was left. Nothing but its eyes, the only part of the functioning body that wasn't in some manner made up of hair. I don't like killing most of the cryptids I come across. Hell, if there were more peaceful solutions, I would pursue them. Cryptids, they end up taking people from their family, one way or another. Even the jobbins can keep someone asleep so long that the body gives up, similar to the furball that have been across from me. I have to stop these situations before they occur. I once lacked foresight, but no longer. I cleaned up the scene, ears still ringing. I placed the furball's glass-like eyes into a plastic bag. They would be iced in the cooler. Couldn't help but notice the clearing looking a damn lot like crop circles. Aliens. What a joke. Typing all these cryptids' names reminded me I haven't really introduced myself yet. My name is Jack. Wow, fantastic stuff, refreshing and wonderfully written. Thank you ever so much for that. As ever guys, please do let me know down below in the comments what you thought. Please do like and share, help build this channel and community. And remember, if you have a story to share with us here on the show, why not get in touch with me at my email, which is dmtforestoffear@gmail.com. Hope you're all well and happy and have enjoyed a busy week, a profitable week, and are looking forward to chilling out over the weekend. And as ever, remember, be safe, not sorry.